The stars glittered like scattered diamonds against the velvet blackness of space. The colony of Harmony prospered on the edge of known human territory, a jewel of achievement with its domed cities and terraformed valleys. Families built their lives here. Children played in parks designed to mimic Earth's most beautiful landscapes, all under the protective watch of a small defense outpost. No one expected the attack when it came. The first sign was communication blackouts across the eastern settlement. Then came the rumbling as massive ships darkened the sky, their hulls reflecting the orange glow of Harmony's sun. They weren't human vessels, their angles too sharp, their surfaces too smooth to be of Earth design. The Vex Empire had arrived. Alex played in the community garden when the first shot struck. The boy was small for his age, with curious eyes and a quick smile that made him popular among the colony's children. He had been tending to the strawberry patch his class had planted when the ground shook and the air filled with dust and screams. "Everyone inside!" shouted his teacher, her face gone pale as she herded the children toward the colony's emergency bunkers. Alex ran with the others, his small legs pumping hard, but he tripped over debris that had fallen from a nearby building. By the time he stood up, his group was gone, and strange figures moved through the smoke. They walked on two legs but moved with an unsettling grace. Their bodies gleamed like polished metal, with heads that tapered to points where eyes should be. One of them spotted Alex. The boy froze as the alien approached. He had seen pictures of other alien species in school, friendly races that traded with humans. But he had never seen anything like this creature that now loomed over him, studying him with what seemed like cold interest. "Stay back," Alex said, his voice small but brave. "My parents will come for me." The alien made no sound that Alex could understand, but it turned to its companions and gestured. Before Alex could run, one of them produced a device that emitted a pale light. The world went dark around him. When Alex woke, he lay on a cold surface that hummed beneath him. The room was filled with strange equipment, lights blinking in patterns that made no sense to him. Several Vex stood around him, their pointed heads tilted as they examined various screens. "Where am I?" Alex asked, trying to sit up. He couldn't move. Something invisible held him down. One of the Vex approached with a tool that glowed at its tip. Another adjusted something on a nearby console. They spoke to each other in clicks and whistles that the universal translators on Harmony would have deciphered. But Alex had no such device. The fear that had been building in his chest erupted into terror as the glowing tool moved closer to his face. "Please," he begged. "I want to go home." The Vex didn't respond. To them, this small human represented an opportunity to understand the species that had been expanding through the galaxy. The Empire had long viewed humans as a curiosity, a primitive race that somehow managed to spread across multiple star systems despite their obvious biological limitations. This specimen would provide valuable data. They did not recognize that what they saw as scientific inquiry, humans would view as an unforgivable atrocity. As the first tests began, somewhere on the colony the emergency beacon activated, broadcasting a distress signal into the void. The signal carried no details of the attack, only the standard emergency code. It would take days to reach the nearest patrol route. And by then, the Vex would be long gone, taking with them their subject of interest, a frightened child whose fate would soon ignite the fury of an entire species. The patrol ship Pathfinder drifted through the silent darkness, its sensors sweeping the void as it made its routine circuit along the border of human space. Captain James Reed sat in his command chair, eyes half closed as he reviewed colony reports. The Pathfinder wasn't a warship, just a small scout vessel with a crew of 20, tasked with checking on the outlying settlements and showing the flag. "Sir, we're picking up a distress signal," called out the communications officer. "It's from Harmony Colony. Standard emergency pattern, no voice communication." Reed straightened immediately. "How old is the signal?" "Based on degradation. About 4 days, sir." 4 days. Reed's stomach tightened. A lot could happen in 4 days. "Change course," he ordered. Maximum speed to Harmony. Alert the crew and prep the shuttle for possible rescue operations. The Pathfinder's engines flared as it altered trajectory, accelerating toward the distant colony world. Reed sent a priority message back to Earth Command, notifying them of the situation, but knew that any response would take days to reach them. Whatever awaited at Harmony, they would face it alone. When they arrived, the colony hung silent in orbit around its sun. No lights twinkled from the surface domes. No ships moved in the orbital platforms. The defense station drifted, dark and broken, massive holes torn through its hull. Life signs? Reed asked, his voice tight. Scattered readings on the surface, sir. Several hundred, concentrated in the emergency shelters. But it's a fraction of the colony's population. Reed ordered the shuttle prepared. He led the away team himself, bringing medics and security personnel. As they descended through the atmosphere, the devastation became clear. The colony's main dome had been breached, its buildings damaged but still standing. The smaller outlying domes remained intact, protective shields apparently activated in time. They landed near the largest emergency shelter. Survivors emerged cautiously, faces gaunt and eyes haunted. An older man with colony administrator insignia approached Reed. "Captain," he said, his voice rasping. "Thank God you've come." "What happened here?" Reed asked, looking around at the destruction. "The Vex," the administrator replied. "They came without warning. Our defenses didn't even slow them down." Reed had heard of the Vex Empire, a distant, advanced civilization that had largely ignored human expansion. There had been no previous conflicts, just occasional distant encounters and terse diplomatic exchanges. What did they want? The administrator shook his head. They took people. Dozens, maybe more, mostly from the Eastern Dome before we could lock down. They seemed interested in us, like we were specimens. The rescue operation moved quickly. The Pathfinder's small medical bay couldn't handle all the wounded, so Reed deployed emergency field hospitals from the ship's stores. As his crew worked, he made his way to the colony's security center, hoping to access the surveillance systems. Most of the footage had been corrupted during the attack, but some cameras had continued recording, their data protected in shielded servers. Reed watched in growing horror as the invasion unfolded on screen. The Vex moved with clinical precision, disabling defenses and systematically entering homes and public spaces. Then he saw it, footage from the community garden. A small boy, separated from others, confronted by Vex soldiers. The child's brave stance, then his collapse as they used some device on him. Reed watched as they carried the unconscious boy away. He kept watching, cycling through more footage, and found additional scenes of captured colonists. Adults, all unconscious, being loaded onto Vex vessels. But one recording from a Vex ship's exterior showed something different. A view through a viewport where researchers gathered around a small figure on a table. The child from the garden. Unlike the adults who were simply transported, this boy was being subjected to something on the ship itself. Even without audio, the child's fear was evident in his struggling movements. The footage from Harmony spread across human space faster than any virus. What began as a classified report to Earth's Central Command leaked within hours. Whether through outrage or calculated decision remained unclear. The images of destruction were troubling enough, but it was the recording of young Alex, strapped to that cold table while alien hands worked around him, that ignited something primal across humanity. On Earth, the Grand Council convened an emergency session. The massive chamber, normally filled with the productive chaos of political debate, fell into an unnatural silence as the recordings played on the central display. Representatives from all human colonies, from wealthy inner worlds to struggling frontier outposts, watched without speaking. When the lights came up, Fleet Admiral Marcus Porter stood before them. "The Vex Empire has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed," he said, his voice steady but tight with controlled anger. We have maintained a policy of cautious expansion and diplomatic engagement with all alien civilizations for nearly a century. That policy ends today. In orbital shipyards across Sol system, vessels that had been mothballed or listed as decommissioned began powering up. Hidden construction facilities beneath the surfaces of Mars, Europa, and Titan opened massive bay doors that had remained sealed for decades. The Galactic Human Alliance had never been truly united, until now. Colony worlds that had threatened secession pledged their full support. Corporate conglomerates that jealously guarded their military assets handed control to GHA Command without hesitation. "We will commit everything," said the representative from Alpha Centauri, a world known for its pacifist leanings. Everything. For 3 days, the military mobilization continued at a scale that shocked even those within the human government. Ships long rumored to exist, but never officially acknowledged, moved into formation. Dreadnoughts, massive vessels nearly a kilometer long, equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust, emerged from hidden docks throughout human space. News broadcasts across the galaxy showed the gathering armada, each report increasing the count of vessels. First thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, 500,000 dreadnoughts, and twice as many support vessels. A force that could have conquered most of the known galaxy had humanity been so inclined. Admiral Laura Stone watched from the bridge of the Retribution, the most advanced warship ever built by human hands. A slender woman with silver-streaked hair, she had been called from retirement for this moment. Her reputation for both strategic brilliance and moral integrity made her the only choice to lead the fleet. "All these years," she murmured, looking at the tactical display showing the gathered forces. "All these years we pretended to be weaker than we were." Her executive officer nodded. "The oldest strategy in human history, Admiral. Appear harmless until threatened, then reveal your true strength." The Galactic Human Alliance had indeed hidden its military capabilities from the wider galactic community. Fears of being perceived as aggressive or expansionist had led to a deliberate downplaying of human military development. Official reports to interstellar councils listed human forces at less than 1% of their actual strength. Now that deception would serve humanity well. "The Vex believed us technologically inferior," said Stone. "A miscalculation they will not live to repeat." In private chambers, humanity's diplomats still debated the proportionality of the response. Some argued for restraint, for communication before confrontation. But when the final vote came, it was unanimous. The Armada would deploy with a single mission: retrieve the abducted child and all other human captives, and ensure that such an attack would never occur again. As the fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Stone received a final transmission from Earth. The faces of the Grand Council appeared on her view screen, solemn and resolute. "You carry the fury of all humanity," said the Council Chairman. "But remember also our capacity for mercy. We are not monsters, even when we fight them." The fleet moved through the darkness between stars, 500,000 dreadnoughts traveling in perfect formation, their metal hulls gleaming in the distant starlight. Each massive vessel carried enough firepower to reduce a planet to molten slag, their designs optimized over decades of secret military development. Support craft swarmed around them like protective insects: fighters, destroyers, medical ships, and supply vessels. Admiral Laura Stone stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display with calm eyes that betrayed none of the storm within her. The ship hummed with quiet energy as its fusion drives propelled it through space, leading the greatest armada ever assembled. "Status report," she ordered, her voice carrying across the bridge. "All ships maintaining formation, Admiral," replied her tactical officer. "No signs of detection yet. We'll reach Vex border space in 48 hours. Stone nodded. "And our intelligence on the child's location?" A holographic display activated near her command chair, showing a space station orbiting a red dwarf star. The station bristled with scientific equipment, its design distinctly alien to human aesthetics. "Our best analysis suggests Research Station Krell in the Tanis system. It's their primary biological research facility and matches the interior glimpsed in the footage from Harmony. Stone studied the rotating image, noting defense systems and potential approach vectors. Have Commander Gray prepare his extraction team. I want multiple scenarios ready for approval within 12 hours. As orders flowed through the fleet, Stone retired to her private quarters. The room was Spartan, containing only a narrow bed, a desk, and a small shelf of physical books, a rarity in the digital age. She sat at her desk and activated her personal display, bringing up the face of the child that had become the catalyst for this massive operation. Alex looked so small in the image, his face a mixture of fear and defiance as the Vex surrounded him. Stone had reviewed the footage countless times, watching how the boy had stood his ground before being taken. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Fleet Chaplain Rivera stepped inside, his weathered face grave. "Admiral, the crew is asking questions. They want to know what happens after we rescue the boy." Stone met his gaze steadily. What do they expect to happen? Many expect vengeance, complete destruction of the Vex Empire. He paused. Others are troubled by the scale of our response. They question whether we're crossing a line. Stone turned back to the image of Alex. The line was crossed when they took a child and treated him like a laboratory specimen. But we are not monsters, Chaplain. We will rescue our people and ensure this never happens again. Beyond that, she sighed. Beyond that will depend on the Vex response. In the ship's massive training bay, Commander Thomas Gray drilled with his extraction team. 20 men and women, the best special operators humanity had produced, moved through a holographic simulation of the Vex research station. Each wore lightweight tactical armor that could deflect energy weapons and regulate body temperature in the vacuum of space. Again, Gray ordered as the simulation reset. Faster entry point transition. "Taylor, your clearance was 2 seconds slow." Lieutenant Taylor nodded, adjusting her position. "Yes, sir." Gray watched his team with critical eyes. They had one chance to get this right. One child's life hung in the balance, and with it, perhaps the moral compass of humanity itself. The fleet continued its advance through space, jumping from system to system in carefully calculated bursts that minimized detection. The Vex border approached, an arbitrary line on galactic maps that marked the beginning of their claimed territory. In the command center of the Retribution, communications officers monitored alien frequencies, translating the scattered transmissions they picked up. Most were routine, showing no awareness of the human armada bearing down on them. Then, 16 hours before reaching Vex space, the first sign of recognition came through. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're picking up increased chatter. A patrol vessel spotted our advanced scouts. They're reporting an anomalous fleet signature to their central command." Stone straightened in her chair. "So it begins. Bring the fleet to combat readiness. All vessels prepare to drop stealth protocols on my mark." Across 500,000 dreadnoughts, crews moved to battle stations, weapon systems powered up, shields strengthened, and fighter pilots rushed to their craft. The element of surprise was ending. Now came the demonstration of power. The Vex High Command Center buzzed with activity as reports flooded in from border patrols. Supreme Commander Krell stood before the massive holographic display, his metallic skin reflecting the red emergency lights that now pulsed throughout the chamber. The display showed an approaching fleet that defied all known intelligence about human military capabilities. "Verify these readings," he ordered, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the common galactic language. "This cannot be accurate." The sensor chief's pointed head bobbed nervously. "Verified 3 times, Supreme Commander." The human fleet numbers over 500,000 capital ships, with approximately 1 million support vessels. Krell's inner eyelids flickered in the Vex equivalent of disbelief. The official intelligence reports had always classified humans as a moderate threat at best, a species with decent technology but limited military deployment. The entire Vex armada numbered fewer than 10,000 vessels. What could prompt such a response? He wondered aloud. An aide approached cautiously. Supreme Commander, the Emperor requests your presence in the communication chamber. The humans have sent a transmission. In the opulent Imperial communication room, Emperor Vexlar waited, his ceremonial armor gleaming with precious metals that signified his absolute authority. The massive viewscreen before him remained dark, awaiting the human transmission. Commander Krell, explain to me why a species we considered barely worth our attention now threatens our borders with a fleet that could burn our worlds to ash. Krell lowered his head in submission. Emperor, we have no explanation yet. Our only recent interaction was the scientific expedition to the human colony called Harmony. Standard specimen collection for the Biological Research Division. The screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Laura Stone. Her face showed no emotion as she regarded the Vex leaders. I am Admiral Stone of the Galactic Human Alliance. You have taken our people against their will from the colony of Harmony. Among them is a child named Alex. Your actions constitute an act of war according to all galactic conventions. Emperor Vexlar straightened, his translator clicking rapidly before he spoke. Admiral, there seems to be a serious misunderstanding. Our scientific expeditions occasionally collect specimens from various species for study. This is common practice throughout the galaxy. Stone's expression hardened. You did not collect specimens. You abducted sentient beings. You took a child and subjected him to experiments while he was conscious and afraid. The Emperor turned to his advisors, genuine confusion evident in his movements. In Vex culture, the young were simply smaller versions of adults, with no special status or protection. The concept of childhood as a protected state was foreign to them. Admiral, we had no intention of causing diplomatic incident. If these individuals hold special significance to humans, we can certainly discuss compensation. Compensation. Stone's voice remained level, but ice had formed in her tone. Let me be perfectly clear. You will return the child named Alex and all other humans unharmed. You will surrender those responsible for their abduction and treatment. You will open your research facilities to human inspection to ensure no others of our kind remain in your custody. The Emperor's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, and if these terms are not acceptable. The view on the screen widened to show the bridge of the retribution. Behind Stone stood her officers, their faces set with the same cold determination. If these terms are not met within 12 standard hours, we will demonstrate exactly why humanity has hidden its true military strength for all these decades. The transmission ended, leaving the Vex leaders in stunned silence. Is this possible? The Emperor finally asked. Could we have so severely misjudged their capabilities? Krell activated a tactical display showing the approaching human fleet. It would appear so, Emperor. Our analysts are still trying to understand how they concealed such force. Their ships show technology at least equal to our own, possibly superior. The Emperor moved to a private console and accessed the research database. The file on the human child appeared. Clinical notes and images that documented what the Vex had considered simple scientific inquiry. Now, seeing it through the lens of the human response, the Emperor began to understand. Locate this. Alex, immediately, he commanded, and prepare our diplomatic corps. We have made a grave miscalculation. As the Vex scrambled to respond, the human fleet continued its advance, weapons primed and ready. The countdown had begun. Commander Thomas Gray and his team prepared aboard the stealth insertion vessel Shadow. The small craft had been designed specifically for covered operations, with advanced dampening technology that made it nearly invisible to sensors. His 20 operators checked their equipment one final time. Specialized suits that would protect them in the alien environment while allowing maximum mobility. Remember, Gray told them as they gathered for the final briefing. Our primary objective is the recovery of the child, Alex. Secondary objectives are any other human captives. We go in quiet, we get our people, we get out. The fleet provides our distraction. Outside their small vessel, The massive human armada had formed a blockade around the Vex research station. The show of force had resulted in surprisingly little resistance. The Vex, clearly unprepared for such overwhelming power, had pulled back their defensive fleet and opened communications. But Admiral Stone wasn't taking any chances with Alex's life. While diplomats exchanged heated messages, the Shadow detached from its carrier ship and slipped toward the research station using the cover of a debris field. "Approaching entry point," reported the pilot. "Station defenses appear to be focused outward toward the fleet." Gray nodded, his face set with determination. "Take us in. Team, final equipment check." The Shadow docked silently at an emergency airlock designed for maintenance drones. The team's technical specialist bypassed the security protocols, allowing them to enter without triggering alarms. Once inside, they moved through the station's service corridors, following the path mapped from intelligence gathered by long-range scans. The station's interior was uncomfortably hot and lit with a reddish glow that made human vision strain to adjust. The architecture favored angles that seemed slightly wrong to human perception, with doorways too tall and narrow for comfort. "Life signs ahead," whispered Lieutenant Taylor, checking her scanner. One human biosignature, small, consistent with a child. Gray signaled the team to halt, then deployed a microdrone that crawled along the ceiling to provide a visual of the room ahead. The feed showed a laboratory space with several Vex researchers moving around equipment. In the center, suspended in a transparent chamber filled with bluish liquid, floated Alex. The boy's eyes were closed, tubes and sensors attached to the small body. He appeared to be breathing. The liquid apparently oxygenated to sustain him. Gray's jaw tightened. Non-lethal takedown of all Vex personnel. "Martinez, prepare the medical extraction kit. We don't know what that fluid is or how removing him might affect his condition." The team moved with practiced precision. Stun weapons fired in quick succession, dropping the Vex researchers before they could respond. Medical specialist Martinez rushed to the chamber, scanning it with portable equipment. "He's alive. Vital signs stable but weak. The fluid appears to be a nutrient solution with mild sedative properties." Martinez worked quickly, interfacing her equipment with the Vex technology. "I need 3 minutes to safely extract him." Gray positioned his team to defend the room. "You have 2. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Someone had noticed the unconscious researchers or detected the human presence. Martinez carefully drained the fluid from the chamber, monitoring Alex's vitals as she did. When the chamber opened, she gently removed the tubes and sensors from the boy's body, wrapping him in a thermal blanket designed to stabilize human body temperature. Alex's eyes fluttered open briefly. "Mom," he whispered, "we're taking you home." Martinez assured him softly. Gray's communicator activated. "Commander, we've been detected. Station security is mobilizing. Route back to extraction point. Compromised. We need an alternate path." Gray made a quick decision. Plan Bravo. Move to the central atrium and prepare for aerial extraction. They moved as one unit, Martinez carrying Alex while the others formed a protective formation around them. Vex security forces appeared at corridor intersections, firing energy weapons that the team's shields barely deflected. "Admiral," Gray called through his secure channel to the Retribution, requesting immediate extraction. Plan Bravo in effect. Stone's voice came through clearly. "Acknowledged, Commander. Creating your exit now." Above the station, one of the human dreadnoughts moved into position, its precision weapons targeting the station's central dome. A single shot pierced the structure, creating a controlled breach large enough for a rescue shuttle without compromising the station's main integrity. As Gray's team reached the atrium, the ceiling above them peeled away, revealing the stars beyond. A shuttle descended through the opening, its lower bay doors already open. The Retribution's medical bay hummed with quiet activity as doctors worked around Alex. The boy lay on a bed designed for human physiology, his small form dwarfed by the medical equipment monitoring his condition. Admiral Stone stood at the observation window, watching as the medical team completed their assessment. "He'll recover fully," said Chief Medical Officer Patel, joining Stone at the window. The Vex experiments were invasive, but not designed to cause permanent harm. They were studying him. Stone's expression remained neutral, but her eyes hardened. "And the other captives?" "All 17 adults have been recovered from various Vex facilities. Most were in stasis, apparently awaiting examination. They're being treated now." The Admiral nodded slowly, then turned as a communication officer approached. "Admiral, the Vex Emperor is requesting to speak with you. He says it's urgent." Stone gave one last look at Alex, who had fallen into a natural sleep, then walked to the bridge. The massive view screen activated to show Emperor Vexlar, his posture noticeably less commanding than during their previous exchange. "Admiral Stone," the Emperor began, "I wish to express my profound regret for the misunderstanding that has led to this confrontation." "Misunderstanding?" Stone's voice was quiet but sharp. "You abducted our people. You experimented on a child." The Emperor's translator clicked rapidly before responding. "In Vex culture, offspring are not given special consideration. They are simply immature members of the species. We had no concept that humans place such extraordinary value on their young." Stone studied the alien ruler for a long moment. "Now you know." "Yes," the Emperor agreed. "We have reviewed your cultural database. The concept of childhood as a protected status is fascinating. Had we understood this cultural importance, we would never have selected the young specimen, the child, for primary study." Behind Stone, her bridge crew watched silently. 500,000 dreadnoughts remained in position around Vex space, weapons primed, waiting for her command. "What happens now?" the Emperor asked. Stone looked to a nearby display showing Alex sleeping peacefully in the medical bay. The boy would live, would return to his family, would have a future. But he would also carry scars, both physical and mental, from what had been done to him. "Your scientists believed they were conducting legitimate research," Stone said finally. "They didn't understand what they were doing. But ignorance doesn't excuse the harm caused." She straightened, her decision made. "These are our terms. All research on sentient species will cease immediately. You will open your facilities to inspection by the Galactic Council. Those directly responsible for the experimentation on the human child will face justice according to Council law." The Emperor's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. "And if we agree, then there will be peace between our peoples. We have no desire for war or conquest." Stone's voice softened slightly. "We want only to protect our own, as I suspect you wish to protect yours." The Emperor was silent for a long moment, then inclined his head. "Your terms are accepted." Within days, the Vex Empire signed the most comprehensive peace treaty in galactic history. The incident that had nearly led to war instead became the foundation for a new understanding between species. Alex returned to Earth with the other survivors. His recovery would take time, but children possess remarkable resilience. In the months that followed, he became a symbol, not of human militarism, but of the fierce protectiveness that humans extend to their most vulnerable. The massive fleet that had demonstrated humanity's true power gradually dispersed, returning to hidden docks and secret bases throughout human space. But the galaxy now understood what lay beneath humanity's peaceful exterior, a sleeping giant that, when roused, could mobilize force beyond imagination. In the Great Hall of Records on Earth, a new exhibit was created. It displayed a child's drawing, Alex's artwork showing his rescue, alongside the formal peace treaty. Beneath them both, a simple plaque read, "We came in peace, we remain in peace, but we will protect our children with all our might."